Okay, Assalamu alaikum students. So let's start with October November 2023 IGCSE Physics Paper 4 Variant 2. This is a 1 hour 15 minutes paper. Let's start doing it. So, a car accelerates uniformly in a straight line from rest at time t is equals to 0. At time t is equals to 3.2 seconds, the speed of the car is this. Okay. So, beta, your initial speed is what? Your initial speed is 0. You are starting from rest. Your final speed is 13 meters per second. Your time is 3.2 seconds. Can you calculate the acceleration? Yes, v minus u divided by t. What is your final speed? 13. What is your initial speed? 0. What is your time? 3.2. Can you calculate the acceleration? Hanji. 13 divided by 3.2. What does your acceleration comes out to be? Your acceleration is roughly 4.1 meters per second square. Always remember in IGCSE physics, you round your answers to two significant figures. Now, there will be someone in the chat or in the comments that will say, okay, sir, the answer was coming out to be 4.0625 meters per second square. Yep, but we round it off till two significant figures. Since the third significant figure is greater than 5, you add a 1 here. This becomes 4.1 meters per second square. Explain in words what is meant by acceleration. Acceleration का मतलब क्या होता है बेटा? Acceleration की definition is rate of change of velocity, or you can say rate of change of velocity, or another definition of acceleration can be what? Change in velocity per unit time. Change in velocity per unit time. Simple. Let's move on to part B. Mhm. The car travels at 13 meters per second. Okay, so you are traveling at a constant speed of 13 meters per second from time t is equal to 3.2 seconds to 12 seconds. Plot the speed time graph for the car from time t is equal to 0 till 12 seconds. So you have to plot the speed time graph. Can you realize at a time of t is equal to 0, your speed is 0? बेटा जब आपका टाइम 3.2 seconds हो रहा है, your speed is 13. So let's mark that. Let's zoom in and mark that. Can you realize we are going from 2 to 4? हम बेटा 2 से 4 की तरफ जा रहे हैं. And how many boxes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can say 5 boxes represent 2 units. एक बॉक्स कितने यूनिट्स को रिप्रेजेंट करेगा? 2 divided by 5, that is equals to 0.4 units. This becomes 2.4, this becomes 2.8, this becomes 3.2. 3.2 seconds पे आपकी स्पीड क्या है? 13. 13 lies in the middle of 12 and 14, somewhere here. Where will I mark this? Somewhere here. ये आ गया आपका second point. At a time of 3.2 seconds, your speed is 13. This is your second point. Can you make a graph? हाँ जी, graph बना सकते हो बेटा? Yes. You can draw a straight line graph between this and this. Like this. Let's rotate it. थोड़ा सा rotation चाहिए होगी हमें. Perfect. Now, after t is equals to 3.2 seconds till 12 seconds. बेटा 3.2 से लेकर 12 seconds तक you are traveling at a constant speed of 13. So यहाँ पे constant speed of 13 की line बना दो. Till 12 seconds. This is your speed time graph. Simple. Nothing complicated. Determine the distance traveled by the car between time t is equals to 0 and time t is equals to 3.2 seconds. Now, do you remember a golden key point? Do you remember a little key point? The gradient of the speed time graph is equals to acceleration. This was the first key point that I taught you guys. The second key point that you need to remember is that the area under the speed time graph is equals to your distance. Now you have to calculate the distance traveled from time t is equal to 0 till time t is equal to 3.2 seconds. तो what do you have to calculate? हाँ जी, आपको क्या calculate करना है? You have to calculate the area under this triangle. आपने क्या calculate करना है बेटा? The area under this triangle. Like this. ठीक है. This is your area under the triangle that you have to calculate. How will you do that? कैसे निकालोगे area? Very, very easy. This is a triangle. Area will be equal to what? 1 upon 2 into base into height. What is your height? 13. What is your base? 3.2. 1 upon 2 into 3.2 into the height, that is 13. Can you calculate the answer? 3.2 into 13 divided by 2. This comes out to be 20.8 meters. The distance comes out to be 20.8 meters again. In IGCSE physics, you round everything till two significant figures. This 20.8 will become what? 21 meters. Simple. Let's further move ahead. The car decelerates from time t is equal to 13 to 0 meters per second at constant deceleration. The mass of the car is this. The car travels 13 meters in 2 seconds as it decelerates. Show that the work done by the car as it decelerates is approximately this. So you have to somehow calculate the work done. How are you going to do that? बेटा work done किस तरह निकालोगे? Work done is equals to force into distance. Now how will you calculate the force? Very, very easy. Your initial speed is 13. Final speed is 0. Your time taken is 2. Can you calculate the acceleration? Yes. V minus u divided by t. This comes out to be what? Yes, this comes out to be what? V kya is 0. Initial speed is 13. Time is 2. This comes out to be 13 divided by 2. Negative 6.5. Negative 6.5 meter per second square is your acceleration. How will you calculate this force? This resultant force is equals to mass into acceleration. बेटा mass क्या है? 1350. Acceleration क्या है? 6.5 multiply करो. 1350 into answer. This comes out to be 8775 Newton is your force. Now if you realize I have ignored the negative sign. बेटा अगर आप realize करो तो acceleration का negative sign I have ignored. Why? Why have I ignored? You have to calculate the work done as the car decelerates. जब भी deceleration होती है, we ignore the negative sign and just give the magnitude. So that's why I've just multiplied with the magnitude. Can you now calculate the work done? Yep. Work done is equals to force into distance traveled. Force क्या है बेटा 8775. Distance traveled क्या है 13. Multiply कर दो. What does your work done comes out to be? हाँ जी. Work done comes out to be 114075 joules. If I round it off till two significant figures, 110000 joules. And if I put it in a standard form, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will become 1.1, 10 is the power of 5 joules as your answer. On another day, the car in C travels a longer distance while it decelerates from 13 to 0. The deceleration is constant, okay. So you are traveling a longer distance on another day, okay, when you are decelerating. Suggest and explain what causes the stopping distance to increase. You can say the road might be wet. The road might be wet. What is the explanation for this? The wet road causes the friction between tires and road to decrease, between tires and a road to decrease, and causing the stopping distance to increase, causing the stopping distance to increase. Simple. Let's further move ahead. Okay, figure 2.1 shows an electric tumble dryer used to dry wet clothes. So you have an electric tumble dryer used to dry wet clothes. A hot air blows into the drum. Okay, hot air ड्रम के अंदर ब्लो करिए. The air gains water vapor from the clothes. Okay, the air gains water vapors from the clothes and then leaves the drum. Okay, the moist air enters the condenser. भाई moist air क्या करिए, condenser को enter करिए. Cool air leaves the condenser. Okay, cool air is leaving the condenser, passes through the heating element and then enters the drum again. Okay, so बेटा ये एक cycle चल रहा है. Basically what is happening at the first, hot air is blown into the drum like this. ठीक है, this is your first step. This hot air collect water vapors from these clothes and then it goes inside the drum again. The moist air enters the condenser here. Then cooler air leaves the condenser, passes through the heating element. The air gets heated up again. So this is a complete cycle. This entire paragraph is written on this. Okay, let me explain the cycle again. I think I can do a better job doing that. What is happening here is you have hot air blowing from the drum. ठीक है, यहाँ से hot air आ रही है drum से. This hot air collects water vapors from the clothes, these blue lines. This hot air collects water vapors from the drum, these blue lines. Then this hot air travels into the drum again like this into the condenser. In the condenser, this hot air gets cooled and then passes into the heating element. Heating element में जाके your air gets hot again. So this is the complete cycle. 1, 2, 3, and 4 stages. State the process by which hot air removes water from the wet clothes. So the examiner is asking, how are you removing water vapors from the wet clothes? The examiner is simply asking, how are you removing water vapor from the wet clothes? The only way which you can remove vapors from an object is evaporation. The air is cooled as it passes through the condenser. Yep, as you can see, this is hot air. The air coming out of the condenser is cooler air. Perfect. So the air is cooled as it passes through the condenser. Okay. Describe one other way in which the air leaving the condenser is different from the air entering the condenser. Peter, can you realize the air entering the condenser, this hot air, has a high water vapor content? बेटा जो एयर कंडेंसर के अंदर जा रही है, हॉट एयर दैट हैज अ हाई वेपर कंटेंट, हाई वाटर वेपर कंटेंट. However, the cooler air that is leaving the condenser has a lower water vapor content because as the air is cooled down, the liquid water vapors condenses into liquid. ठीक है, जैसे ही आप एयर को कूल कर रहे हो, वाटर वेपर्स किस में कन्वर्ट हो रहे हैं, लिक्विड में यहाँ पे कनेक्ट हो रहे हैं. So the cooler air has a lower water vapor content. So you can write it like this. The air coming out of the condenser is much drier. So you can say the air coming, yeah, the air leaving out of the condenser, the air leaving the condenser is much drier. Why? ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है कि the air leaving the condenser is much drier? Because the water vapors have condensed or turned into a liquid in the condenser. Because water vapors have been condensed into liquid inside the condenser. कंडेंसर के अंदर आपका वाटर वेपर का कंटेंट किस में कन्वर्ट हो रहा है, इनटू लिक्विड. The drum of the tumble dryer rotates, lifting up the wet clothes, which then falls through the hot air. State the force that causes the clothes to fall down. कौन सी फोर्स की वजह से क्लोथ नीचे गिर रहे हैं? वेट. When the drum rotates too fast, the clothes remain in contact with the walls of the drum. State the direction of resultant force acting on the clothes during the circular motion. Whenever circular motion is being performed, what is the direction of resultant force? The resultant force is perpendicular to the motion of the clothes. You can say resultant force is perpendicular to the motion of the clothes. And let me show you on the diagram as well. What do I mean? Let me show you on the diagram as well. What do I mean? Whenever the clothes are moving in a circle, let's say these are some clothes. A resultant force perpendicular to the clothes and towards the center will act like this. बेटा अगर आपके क्लोथ सर्कल में मूव करना शुरू कर गए हैं like this your clothes are moving in a circle, there will be a resultant force perpendicular to the clothes acting towards the center. ठीक है? हमेशा जब भी आप सर्कल में मूव कर रहे होते हो देर इज अ रिजल्टेंट फोर्स एक्टिंग टुवर्ड्स द सेंटर दैट इज perpendicular to the clothes as well. Suggest by using a clothes line to dry clothes. बेसिकली ये क्या है कि आपने क्लोथ्स को बाहर सुखा दिया इन ओपन एयर. In the open air is better for environment than using an electric tumble dryer. Why is keeping the clothes in open air to dry is much better compared to using an electric tumble dryer? So if you realize, if we place the clothes in open air, we are not using electricity. Hence, we are not using fossil fuels. So you can write placing the clothes, placing the clothes in open air utilizes solar slash wind energy, which is renewable. However, using an electric tumble dryer causes, yeah, requires, let's choose a good color, requires electricity to be generated, which uses up fossil fuels, which uses up fossil fuels. Perfect. Let's move ahead. बेटा आगे बढ़ते हैं. क्या लिखा हुआ है? A balloon of mass 15 gram is glued to a straw. Okay. So you have a balloon of mass 15 grams that is glued to a straw. Okay. The straw is threaded onto a horizontal string as shown in figure 3.1. Okay. So you have a balloon of 15 grams. Let's highlight this. The balloon is filled with air and then the air is released. Okay. Balloon क्या किया हुआ है? Air से fill किया हुआ है and then the air is released. As the air leaves the balloon experiences a force. The balloon accelerates from rest, okay, so your initial velocity is zero until it reaches a constant speed. So you are reaching a constant speed. It then travels 0.67 meters in 0.18 seconds at constant speed. अच्छा जी इसको भी highlight कर लेते हैं. It travels 0.67 meters in 0.18 seconds at constant speed, okay. Explain in words what is meant by the term impulse. Impulse का क्या मतलब होता है? Product of force and the time for which the force acts. Okay. Calculate the resultant impulse on the balloon when it is accelerating. बेटा impulse किस तरह निकाल सकते हैं? Impulse is equals to force into the time for which the force acts. Now, do you remember force is equals to change in momentum over change in time? Force into the time for which it acts can be equated to change in momentum. Impulse is equals to your change in momentum. You don't need to do this derivation. I was just telling you that impulse can also be represented as change in momentum. ठीक है थोड़ा सा रिवाइज करा रहा था. Now impulse is equals to change in momentum. How will you write change in momentum? Mass into change in velocity. What is the mass of the balloon? 15 grams. How will you convert it into kilograms? 15 divided by 1000. How will you calculate your change in velocity? Final velocity minus initial velocity. Initial velocity is 0 because you are starting from rest. How will you calculate this final velocity? Can you humbly realize the final velocity is a constant velocity v, and you are traveling a distance of 0.67 meters at that constant speed in time t is equals to 0.18 seconds. तो बेटा v तो आराम से निकाल सकते हो. v is equals to distance over time. Distance क्या है 0.67, टाइम क्या है 0.18. कैन यू कैलकुलेट v? यस. 0.67 डिवाइडेड बाय 0.18. v किसके इक्वल आ गया? 3.72 meters per second. Place it here. 15 divided by 1000 into 3.72. What does your answer of impulse comes out to be? Yes, geniuses, what does your answer of impulse comes out to be? Correct to two significant figures. 0.056 is your answer of impulse. Newton second is your unit of impulse. ठीक है, करेक्ट टू टू सिग्निफिकेंट फिगर्स. आपका इम्पल्स का आंसर क्या आ गया? 0.056 and the unit of impulse is Newton second. Okay. Explain how momentum is conserved as the balloon accelerates. हमने बताना है momentum किस तरह conserved है as the balloon accelerates. So you will say the forward momentum of momentum of the balloon and straw is equal and opposite to the backward momentum of air. बेटा जो forward momentum है of the balloon and straw, that is equal to what? The forward momentum of the balloon and the straw is equals to what? It is equal to the backward momentum of air. ठीक है? Is equal and opposite to the backward momentum of air. या ड्यू टू एयर भी कह सकते हो, ऑफ एयर भी कह सकते हो, वट एवर यू वॉन्ट टू राइट. लेट्स फर्दर मूव अहेड. ओके. Figure 3.2 shows the direction of two forces acting on a different balloon as it moves. Determine the magnitude. Okay, so you have to determine the magnitude and direction of the resultant force on the balloon. अच्छा जी, resultant force का magnitude और direction निकालनी है. How will we do that? Currently, can you realize this is the head of the vector? This is the tail of the vector. This 0.74 Newton is the tail of the vector. This is the head of the vector. If you realize both the tails are connected together, head to tail rule cannot be applied. क्या करेंगे बेटा? Head to tail rule cannot be applied. So we will bring this 0.4 Newton का vector to the downside. आप 0.47 न्यूटन को राइट साइड पे भी ले जा सकते थे. नो इश्यूज इन दैट. दिस इज 0.4 न्यूटन का वेक्टर. Can you now realize that the head of 0.47 Newton का vector is connected to the tail of 0.4 Newton का vector? अगर आप थोड़ा सा इसको इरेज करो, let me draw it correctly. What I have done is I have brought the 0.4 Newton ka vector towards the bottom side. Now, if you realize the head if you realize the head of 0.47 Newton ka vector is connected with the tail of zero point 0.4 Newton ka vector, head to tail rule is being satisfied. Can you mark the resultant vector from the tail towards the head? This is your resultant vector. I should have chosen a different color to make sure it differentiates. Let's choose a blue color. From the tail towards the head, this is your resultant vector. Sir, how will we calculate the magnitude of this resultant vector? How do we calculate the magnitude of this resultant vector? Simple Pythagoras theorem. Resultant is your hypotenuse. Resultant square is equal to 0.74 square plus 0.4 square. Resultant comes out to be what? 0.74 square plus 0.4 square. Can you calculate the value of resultant? Yes. 74 square plus zero point 0.4 square taken under root. Your resultant comes out to be what? 0.84 Newton. So let's write it in the answer. 0.84 Newton is your resultant vector. अब आपने क्या करना है? You have to calculate the direction of the vector relative to the horizontal force. बेटा अब आपने डायरेक्शन ऑफ द रिजल्टेंट वेक्टर निकालना है रिलेटिव टू द हॉरिजॉन्टल फोर्स. विच एंगल डू यू वांट टू कैलकुलेट? You want to calculate this angle, this theta. This was your 0.4 Newton was your horizontal force. You have to calculate this angle theta with the horizontal force. How will you do that? The side which has both the 90-degree and angle theta is known as the base. The side which only has the 90-degree angle is known as the perpendicular. Which trigonometric ratio can I apply? Tan theta is equals to perpendicular over base. What is your perpendicular? 0.74. What is your base? 0.4. Tan theta. Can you calculate theta? Theta is equals to tan inverse 0.74 divided by 0.4. Can we calculate this answer? This comes out to be, theta comes out to be what? 61.6 degrees. If you round it off till two significant figures, this becomes 62 degrees with the horizontal force. Always remember, for the love of God, I am repeating it again and again just so that it goes in your head. Whenever you are giving answers in IGCSE physics, you always round it off till two significant figures. Chalo, let's move ahead. Figure 4.1 shows a bottle part filled with water. Okay. Bottle part filled with water. Okay. So we have a bottle that is partially filled with water. You have some amount of air. Okay. The air inside the bottle is at the same pressure as the air outside the bottle. Okay. So the atmospheric pressure की जो air है, that is the same pressure inside the bottle. The bottle and its contents are at room temperature. Okay. The temperature of the bottle and its content is increased. Actually, let's suppose you have placed a heating source here. This causes the temperature of the bottle and the contents inside to increase. Okay. Explain in terms of particles how the air pressure inside the bottle changes as the temperature increases. What will you say? As the temperature increases, the kinetic energy of the air particles increase. As the kinetic energy of air particles increase, what will happen? There will be more frequent collision between the air particles and the bottle. As there are more frequent collisions between the air particles and the bottle, there will be a greater force exerted by the air particles. This greater force per unit area results in greater pressure. So, how will you write your answer? You will say, as the temperature of particles increase, kinetic energy of air particles increase. What will further happen? As the temperature of the air particles increases, the kinetic energy of air particles increase. This results in more frequent collisions, more frequent collisions between the air particles and the walls of the bottle and the walls of the bottle, resulting in a greater force per unit area, and hence a greater pressure. Simple. Let's further move ahead. The lid is now removed from the bottle. बेटा अब आपने ये जो lid है उसको bottle से remove कर दिया. State and explain how the air pressure inside the bottle changes. What will happen? Air particles, air particles move. Yeah, air particles you can say move या escape from the bottle into the air. जैसे ही आपने ये lid remove की बेटा ये जैसे ही आप lid remove करोगे what will happen? Once you remove this lid from the top of the bottle, what will happen? Air particles escape from the bottle. Okay. What will happen? This causes the collisions to decrease and pressure decreases. What will be your last key point? The pressure decreases until it becomes equal to the atmospheric pressure. Until it becomes equal to the atmospheric pressure. ठीक है? The pressure decreases until it becomes equals to the atmospheric pressure. ठीक है? आगे बढ़ते हैं. The mass of water in the bottle is this. Okay, so let's highlight this. This is the mass of water. This is the specific heat capacity. Calculate the thermal energy needed to increase the temperature of water by 20 degrees centigrade. How will you calculate the thermal energy? Q is equals to mc delta T. What is your mass? 0.18. What is your specific heat capacity, beta? 4200. What is your change in temperature? 20. Can you calculate Q? Yes, निकाल सकते हो 0.18 into 4200 into 20. The answer comes out to be 15120 joules. But obviously in IGCSE physics, you round all your answers to two significant figures. 15,000 joules comes out to be your answer. Simple as that. Another plastic bottle is filled on the top with water. The height of the bottle is 40 centimeter. The density of water is this. Calculate the pressure difference. How will you calculate the pressure difference? The change in pressure is equal to density G change in height. What is the density? 1 into 10 is the power of 3. Gravitational field strength क्या है बेटा 9.8. What is your change in height? 40 centimeter. That will be equal to 0.4. Can you calculate the change in pressure? 10 is the power of 3 into 9.8 into 0.4. This comes out to be what? 3920 pascals as your pressure difference. Two significant figures again. 3900 pascals comes out to be an answer. Figure 5.1 shows a road junction, a moving car and a stationary truck. The road has high walls on each side. ठीक है भाई road के पास high walls हैं on each side. The driver of the truck is at position X. Okay, so the driver of the truck is at position X. The car moves around the corner. Okay. On figure 5.1, label a point Y on the road where the truck driver first sees the car. बेटा ट्रक ड्राइवर जो है कार को सबसे पहले कहाँ पे देखेगा? बिल्कुल यहाँ पे. You make a line. Acha, I will explain the reasoning to this as well. One second, let me rotate this. Because since we have high walls, okay, since we have high walls, what will happen? Since we have high walls, one second, what is happening here? Okay, okay. Since we have high walls, what will happen? बेटा हमारी walls high हैं इसकी वजह से क्या होगा? The truck driver will only be able to see just 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 beyond these high walls. बेटा since हमारी walls बहुत high हैं, since these walls are very very high, these walls are very very high. What does this mean? बेटा अगर ये walls बहुत high हैं, what does this mean? You cannot see beyond this corner. You cannot see beyond this corner. So you can only see when the car reaches point Y, that is just close to this corner. Okay? So how will you write this? You can say, oh, sorry, we don't have to give an explanation. Since the walls are very high, we cannot see beyond this corner. Hence, the position Y is this. Simple. Okay. A plane mirror is placed at the road junction as shown in figure 5.2. ठीक है भाई एक plane mirror यहाँ पे हमने place किया हुआ है okay. Show how the mirror allows the driver of the truck to see the car when it is at the position shown in figure 5.2. Okay, so we have to show how the truck driver is able to see the car. Basically, make a ray diagram. Let's say, okay, so let's draw the ray diagram here. First of all, let's draw a normal. बेटा सबसे पहले normal बना लो इस तरह से. Then what will you do? You will draw an incident ray like this. I think I should draw it from a little left side like this. ठीक है. Yeah, this is your incident ray. Let's mark the normal a little towards the left like this. Yeah, this is your normal. This is your incident ray. How will your angle of reflection be? Like this. इस तरह से. This is your angle of reflection. R. This is your ray diagram. So this is how you can see the car in the mirror. Simple. Okay. The truck driver wears spectacles to correct long sightedness. Do you remember what used to happen in long sightedness? Can't see nearby objects clearly. बेटा लॉन्ग साइटेडनेस में क्या होता था? नियर बाय ऑब्जेक्ट्स आपको सही से नहीं दिखते थे. Figure 5.3 shows a blurred image of an object forms on the retina, an effect of cornea. Any effect of the cornea on the rays of light can be ignored. Okay, ठीक है. ये लेंस है. Can you realize we are not forming an image on the retina? बेटा retina पे image ही नहीं form हो रही. ठीक है. So yeah, this is long sightedness. Yep, perfect. Figure 5.4 shows how a long sightedness is corrected by adding a suitable lens in front of the eye. Always remember to correct long sightedness, we add a converging lens in front of the eye. You will also label it so that if your drawing is bad, just like me, the examiner knows what you have drawn. Continuing the path of three rays of light until they meet to form an image. Okay, so let's draw them very, very slow. No need to rush like this. Once they hit the converging lens, they start to converge a bit like this. Again, they will start converging further like this. They meet exactly at the retina. बेटा exactly at the retina पे ये तीन rays meet कर रही हैं. This is your image formation. Simple. आगे बढ़ते हैं. थोड़ी बहुत डायग्राम जो है कभी कभार 1 सेंटीमीटर अप डाउन हो जाती है जस्ट बिकॉज इट्स डिजिटल, बट आई होप यू गेट द आइडिया. Figure 6.2 shows a circuit diagram for a flashlight. The electromotive force of the battery is 4.5 volts. अच्छा जी, electromotive force क्या है? 4.5 volts. The circuit contains a 60 ohm fixed resistor. The current in the light emitting diode is 0.02 ampere per Fed. Calculate the potential difference across the LED. Okay. Can you realize if the current here is 0.02 ampere, the current in the entire circuit will be 0.02 ampere because this is a series circuit. How will you calculate the voltage across the resistor? V is equals to I. Your current is 0.02. Resistance is 60. Can you calculate the answer? 0.02 into 60. This comes out to be 1.2 volts. 1.2 volts is getting eaten up by this resistor. What is the voltage remaining in this LED? The total voltage is 4.5 minus 1.2 eaten up by the resistor. Your answer comes out to be what? 3.3 volts. Simple as that. This is the potential difference across the LED. Nothing complicated here. Let's further move ahead. आगे देखते क्या लिखा हुआ है बेटा. If you see further, the examiner has said, explain why the LED does not light up if the battery is reversed. Can you see the LED is a form of a diode? If you reverse the battery, this is negative, this is positive. ठीक है, अगर आप बैटरी को रिवर्स कर दो like this is negative, this is positive. What will happen? The negative terminal of the battery is connected to the positive end of the diode. The diode becomes reverse biased. It cannot allow current to flow. So you will say LED is a type of diode if the battery terminals are reversed, the LED will be in a reversed biased condition, allowing no current to flow, allowing no current to flow. The chemical energy stored in the battery is this. Show that the flashlight operates for approximately 3 hours. तो आपकी एनर्जी क्या आ गई बेटा? 1050 joules. Okay, so that the chemical energy stored in the battery is 1050 joules. अच्छा जी, chemical energy stored in the battery क्या है? 1050 joules. You have to calculate the time. How will you do that? Energy is equals to current into voltage into time. Energy is equals to 1050. Current क्या था? 0.02. Voltage क्या था बेटा? Total battery का 4.5. You have to calculate the time. Time comes out to be what? Let's do this calculation. 1050 divided by 0.02 into 4.5. What does your time comes out to be? 1050.02 4.5. Your time comes out to be roughly 11666 seconds. But you have to convert it into hours. Whenever you go from seconds to hours, what do? Divide it by 3600. 11666. ठीक है. Divide करो भाई, कितने hours आ रहे हैं? The hours comes out to be 3.2 hours. Yeah, which is approximately equal to 3 hours. ठीक है. समझ आ गई. इसमें आपने कन्वर्जन याद रखनी थी बेटा कि अगर सेकंड से आप आवर्स में जा रहे हो तो आप अपनी कन्वर्जन के लिए क्या यूज़ करोगे? डिवाइड बाय 3600. Calculate the total charge that flows through the LED in 3600 seconds. अच्छा जी, total charge निकालना. Okay, so now we have to calculate the total charge that flows through the LED in 3600 seconds. How will you do that? Charge is equals to current into time. बेटा current क्या है? 0.02 amperes. Time क्या है? 3600. Can you calculate the charge? 0.02 into 3600. Charge comes out to be 72 coulombs, rounded off till two significant figures. Figure 7.1 shows some uses of electromagnetic radiation in different regions of the electromagnetic spectrum. थर्मल इमेजिंग किससे होती है? इंफ्रारेड से. ओके. A photography of people's face through visible light. Okay. Sterilizing medical equipment, only gamma rays is left, so let's take that. State the speed of electromagnetic waves in a vacuum, 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8 meters per second. A Bluetooth handset can be used to listen to music on a mobile phone without the need for wires to connect the handset to the phone. The headset uses frequencies in the range of 2.4 GHz to 2.48 GHz. Calculate the wavelength. You need to calculate wavelength lambda of the radio waves when the frequency is in the middle of the frequency range. अच्छा जी इस रेंज के मिडल में कैसे जाएंगे? You take 2.4 plus 2.48 divided by 2. The middle value comes out to be what? Frequency की middle value क्या है बेटा? 2.44 gigahertz. Frequency की middle value क्या है? 2.44 gigahertz. How will you write it? What does giga represents? Giga is equals to 10 raised to the power of 9 hertz. So 2.44 into 10 raised to the power of 9 hertz is your frequency. Okay. Beta, what is your speed of radio waves? 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8 meters per second. Can you calculate wavelength? V is equals to f lambda. 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8. Frequency 2.44. 10 raised to the power of 9 है. You have to calculate lambda. How will you do that? 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8 divided by 2.44. 10 raised to the power of 9. Can you calculate the wavelength? हाँ जी wavelength निकाली जा सकती है बेटा. Yes or no? The wavelength comes out to be what? 0.12 meters. Correct to two significant figures is your answer. अच्छा जी आगे देखते बेटा क्या लिखा हुआ है. Let's further see. Suggest why a Bluetooth headset only works well over short distances. Because as the radio waves travel larger distances, they lose energy or you can say they lose data. बेटा जब ये रेडियो वेव्स ज़्यादा डिस्टेंस ट्रैवल करती हैं तो क्या होता है? They start to lose out data. So you can write it. You can write it as radio waves travel a large distance, they start losing energy slash data. Let's further move ahead. बेटा आगे बढ़ते हैं. The isotope uranium 235 is represented by this. State what the numbers 92 and 235 represent. 92 is proton number. It represents the number of protons in the nucleus. ठीक है? It represents the number of protons in the nucleus. Now, what is 235? It is the nucleon number. It represents the number of nucleons in the nucleus. Uranium 235 is a fuel used in nuclear reactors. State the process by which energy is released from uranium 235 in a nuclear reactor. बेटा न्यूक्लियर रिएक्टर में हमेशा कौन सा प्रोसेस हो रहा होता है? न्यूक्लियर फिजन का प्रोसेस हो रहा होता है. A nuclear equation for this process is shown. Okay, so this is the nuclear fission ka equation. Describe the mass and energy changes that take place during this process in a nuclear reactor. अच्छा जी mass और energy के क्या changes हो रहे हैं during this nuclear reactor का reaction? Can you realize that the mass of the elements uranium का पहले mass क्या था? 235 nucleons. The mass of the elements is getting smaller, and this change in mass results in the release of energy. You can say nucleuses are getting converted to nuclei with a smaller mass, and this change in mass or difference in mass causes the release of energy. Okay? Now, you can say nucleuses are getting converted to what? Nucleus are converted to smaller nuclei with a lesser mass. Sir, where is this visible? Can you realize uranium has a mass of 235 nucleons? Xenon and boron have a lesser mass, hence they are more stable. Nucleus are converted to smaller nuclei with a lesser mass. You can say this difference in mass causes a release of काइनेटिक एनर्जी कह दो एनर्जी कह दो जस्ट एनर्जी ही कह देते ठीक है Describe how thermal energy from nuclear reaction is used to generate electricity in a power station. What will you say? The thermal energy, the thermal energy is used to convert water into steam. The steam runs the turbine, and the turbine is connected to a generator which produces electricity. बेटा आपकी जो thermal energy है this is used to convert water into steam. This steam runs the turbine. The turbine is connected to a generator which produces electricity. Simple as that, nothing complicated here. State one advantage and disadvantage of using nuclear fuels in a power station instead of using fossil fuels. बेटा न्यूक्लियर फ्यूल यूज करने का क्या एडवांटेज होता है नो ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस प्रोड्यूस्ड कोई भी ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस या तो प्रोड्यूस होती ही नहीं है या बहुत लेस अमाउंट होती है नो ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस प्रोड्यूस्ड व्हाट इज द डिसएडवांटेज बेटा व्हाट इज द डिसएडवांटेज ऑफ यूजिंग अ न्यूक्लियर फ्यूल्स इन अ पावर स्टेशन there is always the risk of leak of radiation risk of leaking of radiations सिंपल लेट्स वेदर मूव अहेड आगे बढ़ते बेटा अच्छा जी टेबल 9.1 give information about three planets in the solar system okay state the name of planet x का नेम क्या होगा बेटा planet x can you realize is closer to the sun has a lesser orbital period than the earth that means this planet is more appropriately Venus. State the relationship shown in figure 9.1 between the mass of the planet and the gravitational field strength at its surface. Can you realize beta Earth ka mass 5.97, gravitational field strength 9.8. Jupiter has a very large mass, very large gravitational field strength. Venus का मास अर्थ से भी कम है तो उसकी ग्रेविटेशनल फील्ड से 9.8 से भी कम है सो यू कैन से द ग्रेटर द मास ऑफ द प्लैनेट द ग्रेटर द mass of a planet, the greater the gravitational field strength. The greater the gravitational field strength. ठीक है जितना ज़्यादा मास होगा उतनी ज़्यादा आपकी ग्रेविटेशनल फील्ड स्ट्रेंथ होगी सिंपल नथिंग कॉम्प्लिकेटेड हियर एक्सप्लेन व्हाई द डिस्टेंस फ्रॉम सन इन टेबल 9.1 इज एन एवरेज वैल्यू बेटा क्या आपको ये बात पता है कि आपके जो प्लैनेट के ऑर्बिट्स होते हैं दे आर इलिप्टिकल तो कहीं पे डिस्टेंस स्मॉल होगा कहीं पे डिस्टेंस लार्ज होगा सो वी हैव टेकन एन एवरेज वैल्यू so you can say the orbits of the planet are elliptical you can say orbit of planet is elliptical so we have taken an average value orbits of planet are elliptical hence we have taken an average value we have taken an average value Perfect. You have to show the orbital speed of the Earth is this. Orbital speed of the Earth कैसे निकालेंगे? V is equals to 2 pi r over capital T. Okay, so now we have to calculate the average orbital speed of the Sun and show that it is equals to 30 kilometer per second. Orbital speed का formula क्या होता है बेटा? 2 pi r divided by the time period. Okay. What is the distance between the Earth and the Sun? Earth और Sun के बीच में क्या difference है? 149.6 10 raised to the power of 6 kilometer. You will not change kilometer into meter because you have to give your final answer in kilometer. R क्या था? 149.6 into 10 raised to the power of 6. What is your time period? Time period is 365.2 days. Now you will convert these days into seconds क्योंकि हमने time का unit seconds में लेना है. 24 hours in each day, 60 minutes in each hour, multiplied by 60 seconds in each minute. Your answer comes out to be 30 kilometer per second is your orbital speed. Let's further move ahead. Complete the statement about the life cycle of the star. Protostars are formed from what? Clouds of dust and gas. बेटा protostar किससे बनता है? Clouds of dust and gas से. A protostar becomes a stable star when the inward force of gravitation is equal to the outward force due to higher temperature. So you will say a protostar becomes a stable star when the inward force. Oh, why? One note why? When the inward force of gravitation is balanced by the outward force due to high temperature. Simple as that. The initial fuel used to power nuclear reactions in a star is hydrogen. बेटा हमेशा हाइड्रोजन जो है वो first of all nuclear fusion create करवाता है in the star. Stars that are approximately the same size as the sun become red giants, which then form a planetary nebula with a white dwarf at its center. Simple as that. Nothing complicated. If you have any questions, you can ask in the comments below.